Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations with yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where you and I have real talk so we can help you level up in your career and in life. All right. So today's topic is going to be about resumes. And what about resumes in particularly, right? So I've been reviewing a few resumes over the past week or so, and I see a trend amongst many of them, especially the technical resumes for positions like front end development, QA engineering, and the sorts, right? And you'll be surprised by the resume that I found the most impressive. That if I was interviewing for like if I was the hiring manager for a position, the resume that I'd be more intrigued by and that I would really want to learn more from. And I will share with that one with you towards the end. But let's get into it. All right. Something that I've seen is that technical people have a real hard time marketing themselves. They rely just on what they know how to do to impress those who are reviewing the resume, right? And want to reach out to them. But here's the problem. When you have when you're in a particular field, right? Whether it's QA engineering, software engineering, front end development, all that stuff, right? The things that you do, one, they don't change that much company to company. And two, just about everyone else who does the same thing will list the same things on their resume. So tell me, if I'm looking to hire somebody, right? And what you have listed on your resume is the same exact thing as 1,000 other people who are applying for the same job, why should I choose you out of that needle in a haystack? What makes you more special than your competitors, right? Because those 1,000 other people are also your competitors. What what makes you stand out, right? To me, that would make me want to interview you and potentially offer you a job. So what do you think about that? And therein lies the question that you need to ask yourself when you're writing a resume. What would make the person reviewing the resume want to talk to me? Is it that if you're applying for QA that I know what the page object model is? Is it that I written tests in Selenium or in Cypress or in Playwright or whatever? Is it that I know how to like I've written test cases before? I've reported defects before? Well, newsflash, every other single person who is in QA has done the same thing. Just by taking a boot camp, they teach you how to do that. So that's not special. That's just the standard. Like I expect you to know the standard. So why would I want to reach out to you if what you have on your resume is exactly the same as everyone else? Tell me, what makes you special? It's on your resume, absolutely nothing. But remember, your resume is it's you marketing yourself. It's you trying to get your foot in the door. When I see the resume, I'm like, okay, this sounds interesting. I want to talk to this person. I want to learn more about this person. But if in your objective you just say, "Oh, I have 3 years of experience. I do Selenium, I do Cypress, I write test cases," and I'm like, "Wah, wah, wah, next. Impress me." And that's what happens. And that's the trend that I've been seeing with especially these technical resumes, right? It's full of technical stuff that everyone else does, and it doesn't talk anything about you, right? It doesn't talk about you. And me, who's hiring somebody to be on a team, right? It's about you. I need to know about you. Why should I hire you to work with my team? And if you notice a trend in the question, right? The trend is I'm asking what makes you special, what makes you stand out amongst 1,000 other QA engineers or front-end developers or software engineers who are applying for the same position. I hope a light bulb is going off in your head. On your resume, you need from top to bottom explain what makes you special, what makes you stand out. Why should I take the time to interview you over the other people? So that goes with on the very first thing that you put on your resume at the very top, when you're stating your objective, you need to pretty much be an elevator pitch saying what it is that you are looking to do. What value are you looking to bring to my organization and how you intend to bring that value? Like I always tell you guys, it's about the value that you bring. It is not about what you've done in the past, because guess what? That's the past. You can use what you've done in the past to tell me what you are going to do in the future if I were to hire you. Tell me about your work ethic. Tell me about your ambition. Tell me about your vision. Tell me about your goals. Tell me about the value that you intend to bring to my company and why I should take the time to learn more about you to see if you would be a good fit for my company. See, based on the job that you're applying for, I already have an idea of what you know. You had to get that education from somewhere if you're going to be applying for this job. Now, for me to actually want to talk to you, I need to know what value you're going to bring, because you can have all this technical knowledge and experience, but if I bring you in and you end up doing a crappy job, what if you're lazy? What if you're not ambitious? What if you don't care? What if you're just here for the paycheck? See, your resume will tell me who I'm bringing in to interview. I already know the thing, like I've been in QA for 15 years, right? I've been in the software engineering field for 15 years. I know what the different roles do. So I don't really need you to reiterate what those roles do to me, especially if you had like software QA engineer, lead QA engineer, automation engineer at like 5 different previous companies, and they all say the exact same thing. I'm like, okay, your resume is just repetitive. So what am I looking for when I'm reviewing a resume? I'm looking for a value. So, like I said, in your objective, what value you intend to bring to me, right? I'm looking to see the proficiency in your skills, right? So if you do Selenium with Java, right? How many years were you doing that? What are some of the things that you did with that? So you can mention like the page object model, and those are the skills, right? So and in the skills, I just want to have a list to know like, okay, the things that I'm looking for, do you have it? Great, right? And now when I get to the most important part is your experience, right? In your experience, I don't really care that you list each little thing that you did at like I don't care for your task list, your checklist of the things that you did on a day-to-day basis at your previous company. Chances are my tasks are very similar because if I'm a QA engineer and you're a QA engineer, we pretty much do the same things, maybe on different softwares, maybe little minor differences, but the work itself is very, very similar. So I don't need you to reiterate to me what I do on a daily basis. I need to know the value that you brought to that company. So that means you would list to me some accomplishments, some statistics, such as how many test cases did you write? What kind, like how many, like what kind of defects did you catch? The amount of money that defect prevented the company from losing, right? How many automated tests did you write? How fast did those tests run? How many defects did those tests catch that you were able to prevent major catastrophes? I want statistics. Did you win any awards while you were in those positions? Were you ever employee of the month or of the year or whatever it might be? Did you create any major projects that were demoed for at any major site? Were you involved in any groups in the organization that contributed to whatever job that you are doing, right? Those are the things that I would want to know as someone who's reviewing your resume. What are your accomplishments? What did you do to add value to the company? Sure, you can say, but isn't doing QA testing and automation and stuff like that valuable? Of course it's valuable. But guess what? I could hire the next Joe Schmo to do the same thing. But why should I hire you? I want to know at the beginning what value you're going to bring to me. And I need you to substantiate that by letting me know what value you brought to your previous employers. So I don't need to know that, oh, I wrote, if I'm a front end developer, I built stuff in Angular or I built stuff in React. I know HTML, I know CSS, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I expect you to know that. Don't tell me the obvious. I have it listed under your skills, right? But for your work experience, I want to know, what value did you bring to your employer? It's all about value at the end of the day. If you can't tell me the value brought to your previous employer, why should I trust you're going to bring value to me? And that's what I'm looking for. Does that make sense to you? I need to know the value. So use statistics, use accomplishments, use things that you prevented from happening. When you raised red flags, how you're assertive in your position. I want your resume to be confident. Yet, you know what? I want you to be arrogant in marketing yourself. Tell me why, if I don't interview you, it would be my loss. Don't come begging and hoping and wishing and praying that you just happen to get selected in a random luck situation. No, make your resume stand out. And if you make your resume stand out, then I will want to talk to you. I will want to learn more about you. And if you can do that, you put yourself in a much, much better position than your competition. Be arrogant on your resume. Go into submitting your resume as in, you are the best candidate for the job. You are not just another insert job position here. I am the best. And my resume is going to show them why I am the best. Sometimes you have to refine your resume over and over again to get it just right. But it's worth it. So that is the most common problem that I see with the resumes. Now, some other issues that I see, that they're minor, but they're very important, right? Number one, I think every resume that I received was submitted to me in a PDF format, right? While job postings, job boards, whatever, they accept PDFs, to me, like what a recruiter at a staffing agency told me had to be like 10 years ago, right? Because my resume was in a PDF as well. She said, although PDFs work, it's better if you don't use a PDF, because when the resume parsers are reading through it, they have trouble extracting the PDF, right? And I had an example today. I was reviewing a resume, and I copied and pasted something from the PDF, and it was all out of format. It was pretty bad. So putting it in a Word document, going from top to bottom, don't do all that left border stuff, right border stuff. And just make a resume. You're not applying for a graphic designer. Unless you are applying for a graphic designer, then you want to have a very nice resume that's fancy and all that type of stuff. But if you're applying for a tech job, you don't need all that fancy fluff. I want to know, like, I don't care about the fanciness of your resume. What matters to me the most is what value you're going to bring to me, what value you brought to your previous employers, what are your skills? All right. So number one suggestion, right? After the obvious of what value you provide, number one is change your resume from PDF to Word doc. I think it'll make a huge difference in the results that you get when applying, right? Number two, under your education section, right? I know a lot of people are taking boot camps or they're going through courses on like maybe Coursera or Udemy or whatever other site that's available, right? All of those are great. But something that I've heard is like the boot camp instructors or coaches or whatever they're called at the boot camps, right? They'll tell they'll tell the person who's in the boot camp is, "Oh, don't put the boot camp as education and put it as a job," right? Which if they put it as a job, as an internship, whatever, that's cool, right? But here's the problem. If you don't put it as education, I always wonder when I get a resume for a particular position, but there's no source of education for they're applying for. I'm like, okay, where did you learn this? How do you know this information? Right? I'm not a big person on college degrees and everything like that. I totally believe in learning online, especially like self-learning, like through Udemy, through Coursera, all that type of stuff, right? I am a big advocate for that. But I want to know that that's where you learned it from. To me, actually, that's even more valuable because believe it or not, I don't believe in college they teach anything about quality assurance and testing and validation. And I honestly think they teach barely about software engineering and front end development, right? They might give you the basics, but they don't teach you how to work, how to be in a work environment, how to interact, how to work on a team, all that type of stuff, right? So, in my opinion, when you list those self learnings or the boot camps that you spent a bunch of money on, I think that is very helpful because for me, who is going to be reviewing your resume and interviewing you, I have a baseline, okay, to know, okay, what kind of education this person has. Because if everything is self learned like 100%, you had no other educational factors. You're just and you're applying for this job. I'm a bit suspicious and hesitant to be like, they needed to learn this from somewhere. They need to have some type of guide, right? And for you to have absolutely no type of guide, that makes me a bit hesitant, right? So I would encourage you to list where you got your education from. It doesn't matter if it's a boot camp. It doesn't matter if it's Udemy. Like on my resume, I have a bunch of Udemy courses that I've taken and that I am taking, right? And it's never stopped me from getting a position. That recruiter from 10 years ago even told me, hey, list those Udemy courses that you take. They're very important because it helps the employers know what you're working on, what's your future, what's your path. So I'll definitely say to add that. And the last thing, which is also about the education, because a lot of times we'll put, let's say we have a computer science degree, right? A bachelor's in computer science. But you just list that and you don't put any details about it because there's like, what did you focus on when you're doing your computer science, right? Like, give me some highlights about that as well. If you did a Udemy course or a boot camp, give me some highlights about what you learned in the boot camp, what you did in the boot camp. Give me something that I can ask you about, something that I can get to know you better through your resume, something that'll make me intrigued, something that's maybe mysterious that, oh, I got to talk to this person and find out more. And I think with those minor changes, that your opportunities and your potentials for landing that interview and then eventually that job will skyrocket. All right. And before I leave, before we end the show, and before we finish up this candid conversation, as I mentioned, you would be surprised by who had the most intriguing resume from the ones that I reviewed. Guess what? It was no one other than someone who has 20 years experience in marketing. They sold like they're trying to transition into QA, barely any experience in QA, right? They're studying QA, they're in some type of boot camp, right? But the way that they worded their resume, they sold themselves like $1 million. The resumes that I reviewed, that they're very technical. I can see that they have this education and everything like that, but it was a dime a dozen. It was boring. But this person who is studying to be in QA, the way that they sold themselves by listing, like, just in their objective, what they've been doing for 20 years, their focus, their goals, and how they want to use that to transition into QA, and their goals that they would have once transitioning into QA. I was like, this is gold. This is amazing. And then when I'm reading their work history, right, they're saying all of their accomplishments in those different roles, the marketing campaigns that were successful, everything, like it was impressive. So usually when I give feedback on a QA, when I give feedback on a technical resume, it is like, it's loaded with like, it's like a almost 2 pages long of, you need to do this, you need to focus on that, everything like that, right? But this person, they sent me their resume, which they're applying for. They want a QA role, but I only had 3 or 4 bullet points because their resume was on point. They marketed themselves perfectly, right? All I had to tell them was like, you know what, your resume is good. Change it to a Word doc, like I said in the beginning, and what you've learned, and so I said, the only thing I had to tell them was take what you've learned. The only thing I had to tell them, like I said in the beginning, change it from a PDF to a Word doc, right? And then in your roles as like marketing manager, marketing director, all that good stuff, use that, because there's still some type of quality assurance and testing involved. Use that and put it into, like, find ways to put it into your job descriptions, like what you've done. So you can say like how you had to use some sort of QA to prevent like bad marketing campaigns from going out and costing the company money and all that type of stuff, right? Just incorporate some type of QA aspect into it, because believe it or not, everybody does QA. And that was it. It was like 3 or 4 bullet points compared to like the 20 bullet points that I would normally use for people who are sending me technical interviews. For people who are sending me technical resumes, right? It's all about selling yourself. I don't want a dime a dozen resume. So I hope that you found this useful, because you can end up applying for 1,000 jobs and you barely get any responses because your resume doesn't stand out. They're interviewing. They're just doing like Russian roulette to choose who they're going to interview, because there's nothing that special about your resume. Make your resume stand out, and you will see that you will have more job interviews, and the more interviews you get, the better opportunity you have for landing that next position. All right? So if you found this information useful, subscribe to the channel, number 1. Number 2, click the like button. Number 3, click the notification bell, so when I drop new content or go live, you get notified, and then you can continue to grow and learn more with yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. But my friends, until next time.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.